Okay, good morning, all of you. So in the last class we have already doing this particular hire purchase and installment sale chapter. In the hire purchase, I have done that basic sum of that particular hire purchase thing, and then we'll go on that particular complete reposition. Actually, complete reposition ta last class e hoyechilo. Now we'll enter into the next part, that is your partial reposition. Okay, so today's class is about the partial reposition. Okay, I will show you a sum and solve it accordingly. Okay, but yes, there is a point, or you can see that there is the main point of the sum. It is nothing but the partial reposition. Okay, that means the total asset haven't been repossessed by the hire vendor, only a part of the assets have been repossessed by the hire vendor. So that is called your partial reposition. Now I'm sharing my screen. Okay. Okay, first read out the sum, then solve it. আবার কি এলো? Okay, Transport Company Limited purchased two vans costing rupees 40,000 each from auto distributors on 1st January 1994 on hire purchase system on the following terms. Okay, so in the first line they have mentioned Transport Company Limited purchase, that means the Transport Company Limited is the hire purchaser. They have purchased two vans costing rupees 40,000 each. Okay, so the two vans have been purchased and the costing of is 40,000. That means your cash price is given. Okay, your cash price is given 40,000 each from auto distributor on 1st January 1994. Auto distribution means what? Auto distributor means that he is the hire vendor actually, and the date of purchase is your 1/1/1994 on hire purchase system on the following terms. Now what are the terms? The terms say that payment of rupees 10,000 is to be made for each van. Okay, that's a very important thing. It's very often that been seen that the students have missed that particular each word. Okay, it is 10,000 to be made for each van on delivery. Okay, so that is the down payment, and the remainder is to be paid in 3 equal installment together with interest at the rate 10% per annum at the end of the each year. Okay, and the remainder is to be paid on 3 equal installment. The 3 equal installment is together with interest of 10% of per annum at the end of the each year. So rate of interest is 10%, no problem in that. The buyer writes off 25% depreciation each year on diminishing balance method. Okay, so that's a very important thing. The buyer, or rather you can say that the hire purchaser, charges depreciation 25% at the on diminishing balance method. It makes payment for 2 installment, that means the hire purchaser have make payment for 2 installment but can't pay the final installment. Okay, so 2 installment वो लोग दिया था, लास्ट इंस्टॉलमेंट जाके वो लोग फेल कर गया. ठीक है, मतलब हायर परचेजर 3 इंस्टॉलमेंट की जगह पर 2 इंस्टॉलमेंट दिया, लास्ट जो इंस्टॉलमेंट था लास्ट इंस्टॉलमेंट पे कर नहीं कर पाए. Thereupon vendor repossessed one van. दैट्स अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग. 2 वैन खरीदे थे, वेंडर ने 1 वैन रिपोजिस किया है. ओके, दैट्स एक्चुअली द पार्शियल रिपोजिशन. ओके, सो द वेंडर रिपोजिस 1 वैन एडजस्टिंग इट्स वैल्यू अगेंस्ट द अमाउंट ड्यू. ओके, सो वो रिपोजिस कर रहा है, ऑब्वियसली रिपोजिशन के टाइम पे तो वैल्यू एडजस्ट होगा ही. The reposition is done on the basis of 30% depreciation on diminishing balance method. Okay, that's the important thing. The depreciation have to be charged by the hire vendor. Okay, hire vendor कितना percent depreciation charge कर रहा है? It is 30% depreciation on diminishing balance method. So buyer actually charge 25% depreciation under diminishing balance method. Hire vendor will charge 30% depreciation under diminishing balance method. Okay, so there must be a difference in the value. Okay, one is 25%, another one is the 30%. Okay, so there is a difference in value of the 5% which is to be adjusted carefully, and that is actually leads to your loss on repossession. Okay, ওইটার জন্য loss on repossession টা হয়. Okay, being a higher purchaser, আমি যদি আমাকে being consider myself as a higher vendor or yourself as a higher purchaser, sorry, consider yourself as a higher purchaser. Now you have charged 25% depreciation. Okay, now the higher vendor will charge 30% depreciation, so you have to face a loss. Okay, is nothing else. Okay, so there should be a loss on repossession because of that particular rate of depreciation. Now write up the ledger accounts in the books of the transport company. That means all the time higher purchaser के book में ही हम लोग entries करते हैं, so इसी there is no changes in that, so हम उसी तरह से ये भी कर रहे हैं. Write up the ledger accounts in the books of the transport company limited. Okay, so हम लोग ledger बनाएंगे. Normally दो ही ledger बनता है, एक होता है तुम्हारा asset का account और दूसरा होता है is your hire vendor account, nothing else. There will be two accounts will be there. Okay, so I'm entering into the first one. एक्चुअली दोनों को एक साथ ही करेंगे, ठीक है. दाना देखिए দুটো কে একসাথে দেখানো যায় কিনা. মনে হয় হবে না, দেখছি. না, এটা মনে হচ্ছে একবারে হবে না. ওকে, ছোট বলি. Okay, so I have prepared two accounts. The first one is in the books of the transport company limited, motor van account, debit credit, and on the other hand we have prepared, in the next page we have prepared the auto distributor account. There is nothing but the hire vendor account. Okay, so auto distributor account we have already prepared that. Now what is the date of purchase and your cash price is given. The date of purchase is 1/1/1994 and your cash price is given. It is given as a 2 motor van at the rate rupees 40,000 each. Okay, so 1/1/94 2 auto distributor account, in the bracket I have written cash price, it will be 40,000 into 2, so it will be 80,000. Okay, so the journal entry is motor van account debit, or rather you can say that asset account debit to hire vendor. Here it will be motor van account debit to auto distributor limited account, auto distributor account. Okay, so in the debit side I have written debit side of the motor van account, we have written to auto distributor account, cash price 40,000 into 2, it will be 80,000. And similarly on the auto distributor account we will write by motor van account, cash price it is 80,000. Okay, so this is the first journal entry. Now again I am repeating the steps. यहाँ पर all क्या होता है, हम ये पहले भी बोल चुके हैं कि you have to follow a stereotype process. Okay, first you have put the cash price, second one is you will get the down payment, third one you have to charge interest, fourth one you have to charge depreciation, fifth one you have to pay the installment and then create and calculate the balance sheet. That's the process. Okay, একটুকু বেশিও না একটু কমও না, ঠিক আছে, ওই দ্যাট ইজ দ্য প্রসেস ইউ হ্যাভ টু ফলো, ঠিক আছে. Okay, now so you have to make the down payment now. So that for the what is the journal entry for the down payment? The journal entry for the down payment is hire vendor account debit to bank. Okay, so in the auto distributor account we have to write to bank account, to bank in bracket down payment, it will be 10,000 into 2, it will be 20,000. Okay, here it is a very important that I mentioned, you have to carefully treat that particular each word. Okay, so 10,000 each, एक मोटर वैन के लिए 10,000 है, तो दो मोटर वैन के लिए 20,000 होगा. Okay, so second part you have completed, that is the down payment. Third one you have to calculate the interest. Okay, now what is the interest? Interest is always being charged at the closing date. So on the 31st December 1994, okay, we have to write by interest. Now look at the calculations. 80,000 is the total amount, out of which you have already paid 20,000. So what is the balance become? Balance becomes 60,000, upon which you have to calculate the 10%. So 60,000 into 10%, it will be 6,000. Okay, so if I this is the 6,000 is your interest, that is the third one. Fourth one you have to charge depreciation, and that has been mentioned that the hire purchaser will charge 25% depreciation under diminishing balance method. Okay, so you have to charge the depreciation. Okay, so by depreciation 80,000 into 25%, it will be 20,000. Okay, now you have to pay installment. So installment payment का journal entry क्या होता है? It is hire vendor account debit to bank. Okay, so again in the hire vendor you have to pay the installment, or rather the first installment. Okay, so just see that 31/12/94 to bank account, first installment. Okay, now first installment is what? Now here is lies the calculations. এই calculations আমি তখন বলিনি, আমি এখানে একটুখানি বলে দিচ্ছি. Now just see that they have been mentioned 10,000 of each van have been paid on delivery. Now what is the cash price of a motor van? Cash price of the motor van is 40,000. उसमें से तुम 10,000 डाउन पेमेंट कर दिए, सो कितना बाकी रहता है 30,000. 30,000 को हम लोग 3 से डिवाइड कर रहे हैं, ये 30,000 को हम लोग 3 इंस्टॉलमेंट में डिवाइड कर देंगे. सो एक इंस्टॉलमेंट का वैल्यू कितना होता है? एक इंस्टॉलमेंट का वैल्यू होता है तुम्हारा 10,000 ईच. ओके, एंड you are calculating that 10,000 on the basis of the 40,000, or rather you can see that on the basis of the cash price. Okay, so it is not a higher purchase price, you are considering cash price. Okay, हम लोग cash price के ऊपर calculations कर रहा है. ठीक है, 40,000 is the cash price, out of which you have paid 10,000. Okay, so what is the remaining amount? Remaining amount is the 30,000, that will be divided by 3. So 10,000 is simply the each installment will be there. Now that particular 10,000 is the principal value of the installment, together which you have to pay your interest. Okay, उसके साथ interest भी तुमको add up करके pay करना पड़ेगा. ठीक है, that's why the installment amount or the first installments amount will be, just look at that, 10,000 is for the one motor van, into 2, that is both the motor van, plus 6,000 is the interest that you have calculated here. Okay, so you have to pay what? You have to pay the 20,000 in total, 26,000 in total, sorry. Okay, so this is your first installment is 26,000. Okay, so now you can calculate the balance CD. Okay, just add up the credit side and deduct the debit side. So your balance CD came as 40,000. Now we'll transfer that 40,000 to the next year. It is 1/1/1995 by balance BD 40,000. First year is over for the higher vendor account actually. Now come to the asset account. Simply you have charge depreciation 20,000, so balance CD will be 60,000. Now go to that balance CD, transfer the balance CD BD on the 1/1/95, 60,000, finished. Now next in the second year onwards, second year में एक काम कम करना पड़ता है. ठीक है, only one journal entry will be less. Okay, what is that? That is the down payment. Down payment का कोई journal नहीं होता है, because down payment एक बार ही होता है. Okay, so on the second year onwards and for the consecutive year, what is the concept? The concept is you have to charge depreciation, you have to calculate your interest, you have to pay installment, then calculate the balance. Okay, so আমি সেই প্রসেসটা ফলো করছি. ঠিক আছে, so on 31/12/1995 by depreciation we have mentioned that it is diminishing balance method. Okay, so 60,000 into 25%, it will be 15,000. So what is your balance CD? Balance CD become 45. That 45 have been transferred to the next year 1/1/96, 45,000. So আমি এখানে শর্টে মোটর ভ্যানটাকে একবারে কমপ্লিট করে দিলাম for the year 1995. Now we come to the higher vendor account. Okay, now in higher vendor account, just look at that, you have a 40,000 in the balance. Now you have to calculate the interest. Okay, so interest is your by interest 40,000 into 10%, it will be 4,000. So what is the installment payment? Installment payment again same, 10,000 is the principal value for the one motor van. So for the two motor van it will be 10,000 into 2, 20,000, plus your interest is 4,000. Look at here. Okay, so 31/12/1995 two bank second installment 10,000 into 2 plus 4,000, it will be 24,000. So it will be two balance CD, it will be 20,000. So here it will be 44,000 close. Now that balance CD of your 20,000 is to be transferred here 1/1/96 balance BD 20,000. Now in the year 1996, okay, again the process मैंने बोला क्या बोला था, the process will be the same. Okay, what is the process? The process is simply you have to charge depreciation, you have to calculate interest. Okay, so you have to do that whether there is a repossession or not. Okay, repossession থাকুক বা না থাকুক আমাকে কিন্তু ওই দুটো স্টেপ করতেই হয়. ঠিক আছে, you have to charge depreciation, you have to calculate interest. Okay, so we are following that particular steps. Now come to that, come to the asset account. Now in asset account, look at that, the balance CD is 45,000. Now you have to charge depreciation at the rate 25%. So by depreciation 45,000 into 25%, it is 11,250. Okay, so 11,250 is the depreciation. Now come to the this particular account or the higher vendor account, you have to charge interest. That is, interest is your 20,000 into 10%, that is your 2,000. Finished. Now come to the date of payment of installment. Okay, at the very end of the year you have to pay installment, but unfortunately you are not able, you are unable to pay that particular installment. Okay, तुम installment pay नहीं कर पा रहे हो, as a result the hire vendor reposes one motor van. Okay, so hire purchaser जब repossess करेगा, what actually happens, hire purchaser repossess करेगा तो उस टाइम पे क्या होगा, वो एक वैल्यू में repossess करेगा और as per your books of account the value will be different. Okay, as per your books of accounts, or you can say that as per the hire purchaser books of account, your value will be different. As per the hire vendor books of accounts or hire vendor repossessions method, the value will be different. This leads to your loss on repossession, but you have to calculate that separately. Okay, मुझे उसको separately calculate करना है कि दोनों का अलग अलग करके कैसे कितना value आएगा. Okay, so now we come to the workings part. That here workings is very much important. Okay, otherwise you can't understand your loss on repossession. It will be very easy in case of the complete repossession. Complete repossession में इतना झमेला नहीं था. Okay, easily वो हो जाता है, but partial repossession में you have to calculate it in the workings, then you can put it. Okay, now first workings, working number 1, value of one motor van repossessed as per the records of the hire purchaser. In the bracket I have mentioned that the hire purchaser is transport company limited. That means ट्रांसपोर्ट कंपनी लिमिटेड के हिसाब में, ठीक है, वो मोटर वैन का आज के दिन में वैल्यू कितना है. ठीक है, सो हायर परचेजर के बुक्स में जाते हैं. Okay, now come going to the hire purchases book. It is the hire purchases book in the books of the transport company limited. Now what is the value of the asset? It is 45,000 opening balance on the opening balance of the year. Now at the end of the year you have to charge depreciation 11,250. So whatever the remains is the balance of that particular asset account, but it is for the both the motor van you have to calculate for the one motor van. Look at that, 45,000 is the balance BD, 11,250 is the depreciation you have charged for that year. Okay, so the remaining balance is the for the two motor van you have to calculate for the one motor van. So it will be 1 by 2. The value arises as 16,875. So as per the hire purchaser the value is 16,875. Okay, again I am repeating, 45,000 is the opening balance of that particular asset. You have to charge depreciation at the rate, you have already charged at the depreciation at the rate 25% that have been proposed for 11,250. So if I deduct it, that will be the balance for the both the assets. Okay, now you have to calculate for the one asset. Okay, so that will be the proportion will be 1 by 2. Okay, so 16,875 is the value of the asset as per the hire purchaser. Now what will be the value of the asset as per the hire vendor? So come to the next working. The next working we have to show value of one motor van repossessed as per the terms of the hire vendor. Okay, as per the auto distributor, or the hire vendor is the auto distributor. Actually that particular hire vendor is charging depreciation at the rate 30%. So you need to calculate the balance CD of, or rather the closing balance of that particular truck after adjusting 30% depreciation. Okay, so look at that, I have calculated it on 1/1/94, that means the purchase date. The cost of the truck is 40,000. I am considering one truck only, so I have written 40,000. Okay, there is no need to calculate for the both the truck, both the asset. Okay, you just need to calculate for one. Okay, so এখানে cost of truck লিখে ফেলেছি, এটা মোটর এটা ভ্যান হবে, ঠিক আছে. Okay, cost of van is 40,000, less depreciation at the rate 30%, it will be 12,000. So if I deduct it, written down value is 28,000. Next again you have to charge 30% depreciation diminishing balance method. So 28,000 के ऊपर हम लोग 30% किए, 8,400, deduct it, it will came as written down value 19,600. Again deduct the depreciation 30%, it will be 5,880. So the written down value of the truck repossessed is 13,720. Now look at that scenario. As per your books of accounts, the value of the motor van repossessed is 16,875, but as per the hire vendor, the value of the repossessed van is 13,720. দুটোর মধ্যে ডিফারেন্স খেয়াল কর, একজন বলছে অ্যাজ পার দ্য হায়ার পারচেজারের বুকসের হিসাবে বলছে 16,875, হায়ার ভেন্ডার বলছে না আমি এটাকে নিয়ে যাবো হচ্ছে 13,720. So there is no way out for the hire purchaser, rather he has to bear some loss. Therefore the loss on repossession will be 16,875 minus 13,720. So your loss on repossession will be 3,155. Okay, so this is a very important workings. Okay, where you have to first calculate the value of asset as per the hire purchaser. Second, you have to calculate the value as per hire vendor, then you deduct that and calculate the loss on repossession. Got my point? Okay, so the loss on repossession is 3155. Now how will you adjust that particular thing in your asset account? Okay, come to that. First close the hire vendor account actually. Okay, hire vendor account টাকে আগে close করতে হয়, then asset account টায় গেলে better, ঠিক আছে? So in the hire vendor account we will write that to motor van account value of truck repossessed. This is the hire vendor account, so the value to be posted as per the hire vendor's books of accounts or hire vendor records. So as per the hire vendor's record, what will be the value of the asset taken? It will be 13,720. So I have written that particular 13,720 down there. So to motor van account 13,720, it is the value of truck repossessed, and rest of the years is your balance CD. Okay, now you can ask, sir, what about the installment? They haven't paid the third installment, so what about that 8280? It's 8280 will be paid in the next year or next whenever there is the money is available, that will be paid actually. So 8280 is the balance CD for the of the hire vendor account. Now this is the journal entry. Now what is the journal entry for the asset purchase? Asset purchase का journal entry होता है asset account debit to hire vendor account. So repossession का journal entry just reverse होता है. Reverse journal entry is your hire vendor account debit to asset account. So just see that in the debit side I have written to asset account or rather to motor van account, in the hire vendor account. Okay, now double post it, double posting ta kori. Double posting in have written that by auto distributor account value of truck repossessed 13,720. Now you have faced a loss on repossession, so loss will be posted on the credit side by profit or loss account. In bracket I have written loss on repossession 3155. Now calculate the balance CD 16,875. Now here I have marked it in the green color, okay, because that has a significance. Okay, this is your 16,875 is the actually the value of one motor van, or rather the written down value of one motor van. Okay, look at that, that is to be matched, this is to be matched with this one. Look at that, this one. Okay, the transport company as one motor van repossessed as per the hire repossession. So hire purchaser के book से हिसाब से the value of one motor van is 16,875. that actually been matched with here, that is the closing balance of one motor van that have been left with the hire purchaser. Hire purchaser এর কাছে এই মোটর ভ্যানটা আছে, এই ভ্যালুটা ম্যাচ করলে ম্যাচ করলে আমরা বুঝতে পারবো মাই সাম ইজ কারেক্ট। ওকে, এই ভ্যালুটা যদি ম্যাচ করে দিস ব্যালেন্স সিডি অ্যান্ড দিস ভ্যালু অফ truck repossessed of on the basis of the hire purchaser, if these two value matches, then you can say that my sum is correct. Okay, so this is your partial repossessions sum. If you have any doubt, tell me. কারোর কিছু ডাউট থাকলে বল। ওকে, আই গেস देयर इज नो डाउट। ওকে, নেক্সট ক্লাসে আমরা এটাই আবার করাবো। ওকে, একটু টাফ 12 একটা অ্যাসেট নিয়ে করাবো। ওকে, নাও আই এম ক্লোজিং, স্টপ শেয়ারিং দ্য স্ক্রিন, জাস্ট ওয়েট।